Radio Network.
I don't want to lose. I want to win.
I need professional help.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sports Betting Weekly is sponsored by EasySportsData.com. The books use data, shouldn't you too? And this is Easy Sports Data, like the preschoolers use. EasySportsData.com.
I win here and I win there. Now what?
Sports Betting Weekly.
I want to win.
Here we go. Money talk.
Here comes the money.
You should also check out SportsBettingLessons.com. You'll learn some old tricks because sometimes how you bet is more important than who you bet. SportsBettingLessons.com.
Let's just do it. Let's meet this thing head on. And you were in it to win it. Talk about an education.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Wow, winning.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome to Sports Betting Weekly. I am Second F Chaz. John from GMF Sports Consultants. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I got you. I can hear you.
The mute button is a powerful technological device. It really is. I would think about how many people, if that was my superpower, it would be able to mute people. Think how popular I would be. So we're going to hop right on it. Blackhawk West, so you had a unique hockey story.
Yeah, I thought there'd be a lot of goals between these two teams. I mean, the Islanders are typically they're one of the top teams in the league as far as shutting people down. But I thought that there'd be a lot of goals, and I took the over 5.5 for the game, and they covered it in the first period. They covered it in the first period. So
such an unusual occurrence. It really is.
We've seen it a couple times in this last couple weeks. The Rangers have gotten real hot and hung 9 or 8 a couple times, but I jumped back on this game at 9.5 because of how quickly they were able to score 4. Because I'm looking, if Washington scores a goal, we're now at 7. That opens up the doors to an empty net opportunity. So that you call that 8. I mean, we're looking for 4, and they've already done 6 in the first period. And that's a minus 110 payoff. It's not the greatest payoff in the world, but I think we got a good shot at it. And I went back in for half of my original outlay, so I'm a winner no matter what.
Well, we're going to start with that, but we're going to take your passion for that game and hop on minus 169. So we're just going for what I love to call, if you watch the show on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network, you'll know why we say it's an app that's worth its weight in Bitcoin. So what happens, like right at 5 o'clock, it sends you a notification. You come on, and by 5:10, you can leave. Technically, you can leave if you want, because you can watch it. It's recorded. It's a podcast. We got it on 17 different places. But you're going to cash tickets if you come right away. So we're going to hop on that one. And then, John, you mentioned somebody you were watching as well.
Yeah, well, I was eyeing NHL and the Rangers as well. It was in an intermission between the first and second period. They were down by a goal. So from, a nice investing wise, you were getting a little bit of a discount on the Rangers there. And I believe, depending on what your book was, minus 130, minus 120, somewhere in that range. So they were jumped down by a goal. So I jumped on them at minus 125. That was what my book had.
Yeah, now it's up to 143. However, I'm pretty sure that the Buffalo Sabres are on a very long winning streak.
Sabres, yeah. They're on their longest streak of, I don't know.
Fine, right? They have
yeah, it's. I think they squeaked one by, or I'm not sure recently the other day, but I know they're obviously having their issues on the ice this year. So
well, they were in the news recently for winning a game, and if you're a professional team, that's really not good publicity.
Yeah, you don't want to be known for just winning one game here and there, So.
And they're an odd team because they're really well coached and they play hard. They've lost some big players, and some of their major players have been in the news for potential trades. But they're very well coached, so they're hard to bet against.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bet that one as well, but we're going to do it again with that cash while you watch. We're going to go second period, Rangers minus a half a goal. So we're getting minus 109. So if they tie it up, or if they go up 2-1, if they go up 2-1, we're in good shape there, And if we go up 2-1, Wes, you're in good shape, So as we go back, we're going to go now into the baseball, and I noticed that what you would think you might see is a 1-0 game, right? Tampa Bay, Miami, you got one. But then you got 11 runs. The Padres blew a 6-run lead. They won 8-7. I saw another double digit somewhere, right? There was
the Texas, Kansas City Royals.
Kansas City's got 13 on the board.
Yeah. Yep.
Texas needs one more to have double digits for both of them. Dodgers blew a lead. I saw they had a lead.
Yep.
So in that respect, it's the first day of baseball. So one of the things I always like to do with you guys, I'm going to start doing some videos for Snowman in the morning. He's coming back in the middle of April. So if everybody sees that, he's a good voice on the air. What we're going to do is we're going to kind of do a combination, Wes, of the commandments, the rules, the sports betting lessons. But because Easy Sports data is going to be in play by then for baseball, I'm going to be able to tell you, the guy that's on the mound for the Angels that night, and they may not be playing, but work is I'll be able to know what the team has done on the road for the first 5 innings. And that's powerful data that you just really, you can't get any other way, but we make it in colors. There's like 4 different colors. It's preschool handicap, and it's really so simple. Now, does it win every time? No. But if you don't know that a pitcher is 4-0 on the road for the first 5 innings, and in those, and he's pitched all, because just because it was him doesn't mean he pitched them all. But when you're winning, you usually stay in. And he's given up 1 run in 20 innings. I mean, that's powerful stuff, and that's the kind of stuff where you don't even worry about the game because they've got these things called relievers. I saw Kansas City scored 3 in the 7th. I'm pretty sure that was a Texas reliever, right? So in that respect, really, really excited about baseball. But what do you think when you're first coming back? And we're going to talk to John because on your bio, John, it says baseball is your best sport. You're coming back.
Yes, sir.
Do you, I wrote it down. Do you dive in? Do you stick your toes in, or do you cannonball right in the water?
Even though I love MLB, watching it, betting it, I treat it betting wise just as I would every other sport. And it's just, just putting a little toe in just to test the waters for this first, I would probably say at least first 2 to 3 weeks. I want to see the starting pitchers, get a couple rotations under the belt. Teams I'm not familiar with. I want to get some, some analytics and some stats on them as well. So yeah, betting wise, everything is real small, quarter units to a half units. And then, once we start getting into the end of April, in May, then I'll probably start going full units. But yeah, just putting my toe in the water a little bit here, checking the temp.
With every sport in the beginning, you gotta go. You don't know what you got. You really don't, especially in a COVID era. Because did we lose a baseball game today to COVID? I thought we lost a hockey game recently to COVID. I mean, they were still losing professional athletic events because of contact tracing and things. So you definitely you want to be careful. You and I've talked about that multiple leagues.
Yeah, the contact tracing protocol is doing its job, so they're keeping us safe. But it certainly does make it tricky for us handicappers because you prepare for one team and then you have to wait a day, and sometimes the travel gets suspended. And with baseball, not every state is created equal as far as what their COVID related attendance rules are. So some teams are going to have more of a home field advantage than others. And how the crowd even affects these players is up in the air too, because the last time they took the field, there were no fans in the stands during the playoffs. So that's going to be interesting. Although what it looks like today is we're going to see a lot of runs and some hot bats. If today is an indicator of what's to come, baseball is going to be fun this year.
All right, so let's look at you in terms of baseball. I know you're pretty good. I don't really know if you're betting baseball and checking out baseball as much as John is.
Well, I'm definitely not checking out baseball as much as John. I don't know that anybody is, to tell you the truth. But I pay attention to baseball. I was locked in today to a lot of the plays, and I'm gonna look over it a lot more tonight. But for me, baseball is a bridge. For me, right, the beginning of baseball season is this month is going to be a bridge to the NBA and NHL playoffs. And that brings me right into full-blown CFL season. So I will get into some baseball action, but these are quarter units. And this is not a reliable source of income for me, baseball. Baseball is a bridge, and I'll pay attention to it, and it's cool to watch, and it's something new, but it's a bridge to NHL, NBA playoffs, and then that bridges me to CFL.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because one of the things I want to talk about next segment is, the Kentucky Derby, the big prep races this weekend, but normally I don't pay attention to any of those things, and my bridge was football till August, when football started again. And so I would bet baseball, 4th of July. I always love remember the old days when you go outside and the people would light fireworks in their town? Anyway, those games are always good. It's a summer game. Of course, the Padres make it exciting. And we talked about that, John, when the Knights won the Stanley Cup and West, when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl. I mean, towns are so much better. I don't care what your town is. I don't care where it is or what it's doing. It's better when your team wins. It's just that simple. No doubt about that. All right, so what we're going to do next is we're going to check in and see the Rangers-Buffalo game. Wes, could you give me an update? Did I hit a mute button or am I good?
All right, so Rangers Buffalo right now is 1-1. They tied it up, so that play's looking good. And so we got our first goal, and so we're looking for one more so we can get our second period. And then the Islanders Capitals game, the Islanders popped one in the first 3.5 minutes. So first 3 minutes. So we're 5-2 right now, looking for over 9.5. We're looking for 3 goals, and we got almost 40 or 38 minutes of hockey left to get it.
But remember, we piggybacked on that with the second period, 1.5. Yep, so we're good there. Okay, so let's look at.
So we're better than halfway there. One more goal is going to cash that hockey game too.
Baseball, and I'm gonna talk to you guys a little bit how you bet baseball live. Okay, I bet baseball the way I bet everything else. I look at what a team has been doing. I check for injuries. I check for weather. One time I didn't check for weather. It was so embarrassing that I always check for weather now. But injuries, are one thing. COVID's another thing. And that's what John said about, 3 weeks. If I don't have a pitcher with 2 starts on the road and 2 starts at home, I'm not going to be playing with real money on that game. I'm going to just do that fool around money because it really is, there's just nothing in it. But if you did the handicapping, guys, then you saw the games, you looked at the scores, you looked at the data, you looked at whatever you look at, and it doesn't matter how you handicap. I mean, the 3 of us could sit in front of a racing form and have 3 different horses handicapped in 3 different ways, and they could run 1, 2, 3 technically. But when you have looked and did the time to look, then you had an idea what you thought might happen, but it wasn't enough, obviously, to get you to open the wallet, put the money on the counter. But then the games start, and that's what I like to do. I like to make notes as I'm handicapping, and you know me, just like Wes, I throw games out in a heartbeat. There's 16 games on a full day or 15 games, whatever it is. I don't need to know. I really like to look at, again, a game. As soon as I get a game, I kind of look at what time it was. I don't even know what time these games are. I start with the early games, and I work my way through. But if I was looking at this board tonight, there's still a 3-teamer left on this board. When we get off the air, we'll have 5 minutes for the Angel game, 7 minutes for the Oakland game, and 10 minutes for the Seattle game. But how would you, John, since you're our baseball expert, how would you handicap those 3 games if you had, it's 5:14, if you had an hour, a little less than an hour, how would you handicap those games?
That's a very good question, especially for MLB when you're starting the beginning of the year. It's kind of just similar to what you just ran down. I think weather obviously plays a big factor in Major League Baseball. So that's one of the things you got to look at. Maybe if you're a Chicago Cubs bettor, you got to see which way that wind is blowing in there because that's going to, take effect on the game and stuff like that. So weather is the number one thing. And then also this year, just because due to COVID, for a lot of guys who are betting, I would make sure that you guys are hitting listed pitchers under your bets to make sure that we're getting the starters that we're supposed to. I think we're going to see quite, I don't want to say quite a bit, but probably more than ever, some late scratches, and that will kind of mess up your tickets as well. So I would definitely go listed on your pitchers for your betting slips. And then just, looking at trends, home and aways. Obviously right now we don't have those trends right now. So it's just, just watching the games and studying the players is really all we can do for these first couple of weeks.
Well, you made a great point. And let me sure, I'm going to explain it in layman's terms because I don't really know. But there's two things that you have to do. If you're betting a baseball and the reason you're betting is because of the pitcher, you have to basically tell them by clicking on a button or telling the guy that's punching your ticket that if that guy don't pitch, this bet's got to get my money back. Correct. Yeah. So that's the thing with the listed. If you're eyeing on a specific matchup with this pitcher and for whatever reason that guy doesn't go, that game is null and void. So you want to make sure, obviously, if you're playing the pitchers. That bet for you. They still, if you had the other side and you didn't care because you were betting the team not because of the pitcher, but because they've scored 7 runs in 5 straight games. Correct. Then here, and it really doesn't impact the odds at all. Yeah, no, there won't be too much of an impact of the odds if the pitchers really change. It has to be something really drastic where maybe you see, I don't know, like a Kershaw maybe get scratched, for these lines to really make a difference. Probably anything, the one starters, let's say like if a Cole got scratched today, you might see a significant jump, but it's really not too much of a line difference, really. It's just, if you're doing pitching matchups in the rotation, then that's something that you got to keep an eye out for. All right. How about preseason or practice or spring training or whatever they call the fake games? Do you ever look at those in terms of handicapping for this week? No. I never bet preseason in any sport, regardless of it. I highly advise nobody to do that. I don't know why anybody would bet preseason. The starters don't play. There's no analytics. There's really nothing behind it. It's kind of just, closing your eyes and picking a team. I think is probably better off. What you do is, what I like to do for preseason is because the backups are playing. This is when, if you're following your team, you get to learn these backup players. You get to know who's on the bench. You get to know maybe if a starter goes down, who's coming in. So then that way, this kind of helps you in the future of handicapping these games. So that's really one aspect of knowing, spring training, of knowing the teams and everything like that. From a betting standpoint wise, no, I don't bet it. I just analyze, bench players and stuff like that. I'm going to give us a live update. Here's what happened. So we made 2 live plays based on the guys. So John was looking at the Rangers. They went down early. He says to us, if you go to sportsbettingweekly.com and you click on the hashtag cash tickets page, you'll see everything I'm about to say, and you can pause this or you can mute it. I don't really care. But you got to go to that page because he'll send us texts where he says, I'm betting them, but I'm hoping they give up a goal quick so I can bet them again. And he says it ahead of time, and it happens a lot. It happened again today. So what I did is I had Rangers -1 for the second period because I'm looking to do all my action while we're on the air. And again, we've only been doing this, I don't know, aggressively, the live stuff for a handful of weeks in terms of getting really good at it. So we're getting much better at it. And I know because last week we didn't lose. We didn't throw 1 ticket away. So what I did is I saw the Rangers scored, and I have them given a half. So technically I'm winning that bet. But what I did is I took half of those winnings, which was at a negative number, Wes, and I put them on a plus number. I said, well, if I like them to win by a half, maybe I like them to win by 1.5. So now, no matter what happens, if they score a goal, I win. But if they score a goal, if they don't score anything, I win. But if they score another goal, I win another bet. But I can't lose if they win because I bet less than I won. But I bet it on a plus number. So a little bit goes a long way when you get plus 149 and plus 120. And really, isn't that the math, Wes, of sports betting? And everything you just described, that's the difference between investing in a game and gambling on a game. It's a numbers thing.
you're playing the number, and that's what you're trying to beat. It's kind of like being at a blackjack table. You want the dealer to bust, and if they do, you win. But when you try and beat him, it's just not the best approach. And I just wanted to throw out there that the Caps just scored a goal. So we have 8 on the board looking for 9.5, but we got our second period.
So now that was the second one. So I had Islanders at Washington, second period over 1.5 at minus 150. But I said to myself, well, John was giving us an excellent rendition of why you should listen to him and go to that cash tickets page. Don't say, I heard somebody say, I don't bet baseball. Now, Tommy says that, I don't bet baseball. Well, here's the thing. Baseball's hard, especially if it's an emotional attachment. But if you take the emotional attachment out of it, you'll win. So I said, well, if I like over 1.5 for that second period, wouldn't I like over 2.5? So I did that one now, but that's a plus number. Instead of minus 109, instead of minus 169, I got plus 120. Well, that's a big difference, right? That's almost 100 points. It's 89 points. Round that up. And so we've already cashed one ticket, correct?
Yes, and in the last 48 seconds, the Islanders just scored. We now have 9 goals on the board looking for the game.
That's crazy.
Over as well as a winner.
9. So the over 5.5. I mean, that cashed in the first period, but we are realistically going to see, second period cash. There's been 3 goals in the second period already, but we're possibly going to see the 9.5 over for the game cash before the second period's over.
And that's one of the things that, and I tell the baseball story, you guys have heard it, and I don't care if you say I've heard that story already. It was too cool. This is the kind of thing where technically, if I wasn't running a show right now, I would just keep betting over. I would go to over 3.5, and I would go to over 4.5. Sooner or later, you lose, but you're only losing the last bet. And if you watch your numbers and you make sure you can't lose if you win the first one, then it really is investing. But that's pretty good. So that means that's 5 straight bets that we have won. 3 last week, 2 this week. We got 2 more. And the Rangers now, another goal with the Rangers, and we're going to, worst case scenario, go 3-1. So that's a great start. Okay, when we get back from break, we are going to talk some Kentucky Derby, and we're also going to recap a few things with the Final Four. You are listening to Sports Betting Weekly. You may be listening at sportsbettingweeklylive.com. Actually, you would be watching it there. You'd be listening it on the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. If, though, it's 8:22 East Coast time where you are 2-0, and we'll be right back.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
You keep lying when you ought to be truthing. And you keep losing when you ought to not bet.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I am second half Chaz. We are excited to see the Rangers have an opportunity here with a power play. We're going to go right out to Wes. Now, remember, Wes, you can't show the TV on screen. We'll get in trouble, but you can look and tell us what you see.
All right. No showing of the TV. No showing of the TV.
They were in power play.
Yeah, they're on the power play, and they're just kind of moving the puck around.
You know what? If you're not a hockey person, then you really should bet hockey just for watching at the end of the game. That whole end of the game thing is just the wild. There's no other sport that says, okay, we're going to play with one more guy than you. It just doesn't happen. You can't do it.
And it can get frustrating, too. You're watching, they cycle, and it's like, why don't they just shoot it?
Well, it's funny because I noticed that, a great segue, Wes, to our March Madness. Somebody asked me after the show last week, so, what you talk about with March Madness? I said, we don't really talk about March Madness month. Everybody else is talking about March Madness. We're kind of focused just on what we do, which is right now, because, as you know, it's Thursday. So between Thursday and Saturday afternoon when that first game kicks off, the 2 guys I'm talking to, who knows how much action they'll have place, how many games they'll have bet on, because those things, those are what make them the guys that cash tickets because they're doing it every single day. When I look at the board on most hockey nights, I say to myself, someday we'll have the easy sports data for hockey. I don't have it in me to do two sports right now, so I'm getting back to it with baseball. But the software that we use, it's expensive. We had it built for us, and it works, and it just highlights stuff. But when it comes to hockey, you think about it, how many times does a different goalie play?
During the season, most teams, similar to football where they use two running backs in their system, most teams have two reliable goalies that they rotate through. There's some teams that use their goalies almost like baseball uses their pitchers, just kind of a matchup thing and a size thing. I mean, Edmonton starts the same goalie almost every night, and so when they don't start him, that's probably the time to bet against them. There's about a half dozen teams that have one goalie that they play with, and when he's not in the lineup, that's your siren to bet against them or look at some overs. But
when they're in the playoffs and you see the numbers, most of them played 80-90% of the games, right?
Yeah, by the time they get to the playoffs, and that's what makes this next 4 weeks pretty interesting. By the time they get to the playoffs, they have their guy defined. The Boston Bruins find themselves in a very unique situation where they have two goalies that are pretty much starters. I mean, they're two of the best goalies in the league, and they're unique. And if you got two goalies, you don't have one kind of thing. But when you get to the playoffs, all their teams, they have their guy, and you won't see the backup in, and that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, unless something happens that's unusual. All right, so it looks like we got a minute left in that game, and we're going to need a goal. We're going to go 3-1, but guess what? We that one is, like you said, Wes, it was an investment that didn't work out, but it more than was paid for by the initial win. And, of course, if Buffalo scores in the next 46 seconds, that could cause us a little pain. And we did. We had a winner. Earlier in the year, we had a winner with 1 second left in a period. It was really wild, man.
Yep, we sure did. And hockey can do that. It's about 12% of the time that they actually get the goal when they pull the goalie to get the extra attacker. And that 1% or that 12% of the time that it happens, it's just wild. And usually I'm never on that side of it. I mean, usually by then the game is put away. And but talk about if you had the under in that game and that goal with 1 second left hurt you.
Oh yeah, it's brutal. It's brutal. All right, so let's do that. Let's get caught up to our. So first, the first thing I got to say is, what the hell was wrong with you guys? Gonzaga was given single digits for the first time, and we've been betting them all those times. And what made you get all excited about that USC team? I'll start with John.
You want to know what? I've been following USC. I guess it's kind of the West Coast bias here. And I've been following them for a while. I just thought, obviously, looking at the run that they had, in the Pac-12 and then watching them play, that I thought that game would be obviously a little bit closer than I thought. Gonzaga is a great team, but I thought at least USC would be able to keep that close there. But, out the gate, Gonzaga pretty much handled them, no issues. So I just thought the combination of the guard play and then also the inside presence of USC would be able – it's enough of a balance to keep that game close. I would have never thought it was going to be, kind of a beatdown like we've seen,
But if you remember, Wes, that game really, the way it unfolded was the Ohio State Clemson game to me.
It really was. And Gonzaga's that good. They really are. But not to beat a dead horse or salt on an open wound or anything like that, but the Pac-12 right now, I believe, sits at 12-2 against the spread. So with two Pac-12 teams in that tournament, I did not think that UCLA was going to be the one that covered, let alone win as a dog. So even when you look at the games coming up this weekend, there was a lot of underdogs that showed up. I think it was 5 underdogs that covered in the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8. So out of all the dogs that were on the card, USC, nobody's come close on them. They got those Mobley brothers that are both going to have pretty successful NBA careers, and they've been shooting really well, and they've owned the board. So I thought that this was going to be a game that Gonzaga would get challenged for the first time. Didn't necessarily think USC was going to win the game, but I did not like two Pac-12 teams to not cover, and we were on the wrong Pac-12 team. Yeah, but while we got you here, let's talk. There's two games, Houston and Baylor, and we've won on all of these guys. UCLA is the only team that didn't cash me a lot of tickets this year. I mean, Gonzaga cashed me a lot of tickets. Talk to me about the two games. So these games are challenging, and I realize that I'm going back to the well on this, but when I look at the Houston-Baylor game, Houston has not been scoring a lot of points in this tournament, which is not who they are at all. But this Baylor plays fast. They're one of the fastest teams in the league, and I mean they'll fire off 2-3 shots every minute. And Houston, the way that they're capable of owning the boards, they're going to get themselves extra opportunities shooting the ball, and even more so in a game like this where Baylor likes to play fast. The teams that Houston's played against in this tournament have tried to slow it down. So there's very few times that we get points on the Houston side of things. That first half, 29.5, it's a 62 over-under for the first half. I'm looking at over that 62. And I like taking the points on the Houston side just because of the way that they can play defense, they can rebound, and how fast Baylor is going to want to play this game. And plus Houston with 6 days to prepare. The other game, I could talk about the other game for a while, but I don't think it's smart to bet against Gonzaga, but I certainly am not comfortable with 14 points. And you kind of got opposite ends of the spectrum. You have Gonzaga, who is the highest averaging shooting team in the tournament, while UCLA makes teams average the lowest percentage of their shots. And I'm sorry, UCLA. And UCLA also, they've played against what's proven to be the toughest conference in the tournament all along the way, all season long. So they're used to playing against teams like Gonzaga. So I'm going to play that one live, and I'm not going to go into it with any action at all, because I just don't like 14 on anybody, even though the Gonzaga looks like they could compete with the Lakers. But there's going to be a dog that covers, and we've never had Houston as a dog this season. And, they've taken pretty good care of us. All right, so before we slide over to John, I'm looking at this, and I made a comment, and that's the other aspect, okay? So when you're dealing with cashing tickets, the concept is quite simple. If you lose your money, you have to go to the ATM. And if it's the wrong ATM, that's a percentage of money. I mean, I have had times in my life, okay, where the amount of money I gave the ATM, based on how much I took out, could have broken laws in some states. It was a high of a percentage, but it's a flat fee, of course, and that's the bottom line. If you take out $8, it's $8. If you take out $800, it's $8. I said, Houston want to be Baylor when they grow up, and so I really think that game is going to be Baylor dominating Houston, because Houston wants to be Baylor, but Baylor's better than Baylor. In the UCLA-Gonzaga game, again, I agree with you 100% to think that you're one of the 4 best teams and you won your region and you're getting 2 touchdowns. That's just crazy. John, what do you think?
As far as that Gonzaga-UCLA game goes, I'm kind of similar situation with Wes. I'm going to wait and, watch for some in-game opportunities. Just the spread kind of scares me a little bit. I mean, if you look at Gonzaga, I believe they have the record for most double-digit wins and covers or whatever that specific realm is. But I know it's pretty impressive. But I'm going to kind of watch the first, 5 minutes and then evaluate that game. Houston-Baylor, this is a great, great, great matchup. I'm on the Houston side of that as well with Wes. I just like the way Houston plays. Their defense is kind of not really talked about, and they have a really good defense. This is going to be Houston and Baylor. I think they're going to run up the score, so I would probably obviously lean on the over for that too. But I'm looking at Houston. I actually have Houston winning the tournament in one of my brackets on ESPN. So we're going to kind of lean that way and go that way and see how it goes. So,
yeah, well, if you like these four teams coming in, you know what? You weren't alone. We got a 1, a 2, and a 1. But if you were on UCLA the whole time, God bless you. You know, you deserve to cash those tickets. You deserve to have those winners.
Yeah, that's impressive. If you're on UCLA, and no knock to I don't want to beat the Pac-12 up, but I honestly don't know how UCLA keeps winning these games, to be quite honest with you. So hats off to UCLA. Hats off to everybody who bet them, because you guys been riding the wave. So congratulations. Yeah.
UCLA. John, do you remember the last game? Help me on that.
What was that?
Who did they lose to just now? Well, they lost. They lost to somebody. I can't remember. I mean,
UCLA?
Who did they beat? Who did they beat? Who lost to them?
Michigan.
UCLA beat Michigan. UCLA beat Michigan.
They manhandled the number 1 team.
Yeah, they pretty much had that whole game in hand from start to go.
If I remember correctly, Michigan is like the rim got really, really tiny. They were missing layups and dunks and all kinds of stuff. They just choked. On that.
Yeah, they weren't able to hit a shot, and they. I don't want to say played into, but similar to what Wes was talking about, UCLA likes to slow the game down and kind of just beat you up that way. And that's exactly what they did. And unfortunately, the shots didn't go well for Michigan. And then they got into coming down the stretch, they got into the habit where they just couldn't make any shots. So
I would say that I've watched almost every single game in this tournament. And when we get to horse racing, that's going to be relevant too. And what I saw constantly was a guy getting the ball about, 18 inches inside the foul line and just never even trying to shoot and just passing it. And I'm thinking, that's pretty close. I mean, you're in the lane, for heaven's sakes. And you watch Gonzaga, the guys turn around and shoot. And they hit little 8-footers. They do floaters. And that's the team in the wins the national championship is going to be the team that shoots that well that night. And as we know with Houston, sometimes they have stinkers, but they had their stinkers, so it'll be interesting. I personally think that under is way too low at 134. I know Houston's defense is good, but your defense is only as good as the team you play. If they're much better than you, then your defense isn't going to matter. Baylor's pretty good. Baylor's going to score. Houston can shoot the lights out. If they start scoring, they can have 80 points at halftime. That'd be a nice over. When you get 80 at halftime on a 134, you're just, it was like that day when I went out. You guys were on the thing, the cash tickets, really. Guys, all we do is cash tickets. So we were on the UCLA USC thing, or it was Michigan, Ohio State. Maybe it was Michigan, Ohio State. But it was a big game, and 7 minutes left in the game, I left to go back to the hotel because I had cashed the over. And that's really what it's all about, finding those opportunities to have easy winners. And tomorrow we've got 3 races. And it's going to be mostly me and Wes talking for the next few minutes about the Derby, because Sean's not really into the Derby this year. But the bottom line is we've got 3 races tomorrow. We got a race in New York. It's the Wood. We got a race in California. It's the Santa Anita. And we've got the races in Keeneland, the Bluegrass. Is that what it is, Wes?
Yes, it's the Bluegrass.
All right, so talk to me, Wes. Are you going to bet any of these 3 races? I'm betting all 3 of them, by the way. I am not doing any other. I am not betting any other races Saturday. I am only betting these 3 feature races at 3 different racetracks. So, to the guys down at Chips Liquor, please hold me a racing form. Last time they sold out on me. What do you think?
Well, I'm looking at the Wood, and I really, the 1 is interesting to me at the Wood. I don't necessarily get into the trainers. I like to look at the horses. I like to look at the weather, and I look at a bunch of other things. It's hard to bet against the 4 at the Wood. So I'm probably going to throw the 1-4 into any key that I use. But then, Tyler Gaffalione is got a good ride here on the 6 coming up from Florida in the Wood Memorial. So he's 2 starts, 2 wins, coming up quite a bit in class, but that horse certainly has the speed. So The 6 has a good shot at doing it. I don't think our Derby winner or even a Derby show horse is in this Wood Memorial. I think that's coming out of Cali, and it may have been out of Florida a few weeks ago.
Well, New York has struggled with really a consistent success in the Derby. I don't think that's being rude or mean. Okay, so we got a final. Our final is in the Rangers second period, right, Wes? That went official?
Yeah, that went official. It ended up Rangers winning that period, which I think that's what we had, and there was one goal. So minus a half, and for half of those winnings we had -1.5. So we went 3-1. So we're in the last 2 weeks we're 6-1 on live plays. 6-1's pretty good. Well, I beg to differ, sir, because with 59 seconds to go in the second period, the Capitals have scored a goal. So we now have hit over 9.5 in that hockey game. So that just cashed.
Yeah, so
Nice.
That's true. Yeah, I wasn't thinking that the game was going to be over for another 40 minutes or so, right?
10 goals in 2 periods of hockey. I mean, that is incredible.
But remember what I said. One of the things that I said, if I wasn't doing the show and we were just betting, that's the one where I would have done another unit.
Just keep betting. Yep.
Never forget, John. It was the playoffs, and he did it for the Dodgers, and 6 guys came up, and he had 6+ halves. I mean, so over under for the inning was a half. He hit it. 1.5 hit it. 2.5 hit it. 3.5 hit it. 4.5. He hit it. Finally, it didn't get to 7. They got an hour, but he cashed 6 tickets, and some of them were on 2 pitches. That's pretty cool. When you catch a ticket on 2 pitches, that's pretty cool.
Well, I think this particular hockey game, it's pump the brakes time at 12.5. I think it's pump the brakes and let's put some of those profits on the under and let that.
You can go work on other things. All right, so let's look at the bluegrass. All right, so we got Hidden Stash, Untreated, Highly Motivated, Essential Quality, Ron Bauer, Lipolon, Hush of a Storm, Sitting on Go, Keep Mine. All right, so Essential Quality is 3 to 5. Now we've seen this horse twice already, and the horse is good.
The horse is good. The horse is going to be hard to beat. There's some odd jockey stuff going on in this race specifically because the best jockeys in the country have to choose which one of these 3 races they want to get in because it's secure your mount for the Derby pretty much. I mean, this is the last one. So I think that out of all the 3 tracks, no disrespect to any of the jockeys, I learned a very serious lesson by disrespecting a jockey. But I think that this one is a little bit harder to handicap, and just because of who's riding these horses, and I think that majority of them have chosen East Coast, West Coast.
Well, and it makes sense if you think about it because you can only ride one horse, and you'll see that if you look at the racing form, it'll have the same jockey on 2 horses for all the past races, but on the second horse now today there's a different jockey, and that's because the first jockey said he's going to get the choice. It's his choice to make. He's on both the horses. And then we go out to the Run Happy Santa Anita Derby. Run Happy Santa Anita Derby. You know what? I'm looking at this race, and I'm going to let Wes talk about it a little bit.
Chaz, why don't you go first? Because my computer's freezing on me, and I'm trying to pull it up. I had notes, and I'm just not getting them as quick as you are.
I'm looking at this race, and first of all, I'm so happy for Santa Anita to have 10 horses in their Derby. Okay, because we've had 5 and 6 some years. It's an even field, and there's not a horse in here that is scaring me to win the Derby. I mean, I'm going to look at this race separately, but what we're looking at, Wes, is where's the Derby winner going to come from? And would one of these horses jump to the top if they won? And I don't know. I know Pratt's horse is a good horse. Medina Spirit's 5-2, but, that's Baffert. We talk about it with the Patriots, right, and the Lakers. Baffert drives down the price of his horses probably 2 to 3 to 1. 3 to 1.
Yeah. And your casual your casual Kentucky Derby, Triple Crown watcher, they recognize that hair, the glasses. I mean, they know who he is, and there's some name recognition. But I agree with you. I don't think our Derby winner is coming out of this particular race. I think that we saw our Derby winner racing in Florida. And, this race, the 4 is an interesting one. And the great one, the 9, is another interesting one. This is just a hard one to pick because this race is one where there's probably a horse we're going to end up talking about on Derby Day. I just can't figure out which one. I'm not very confident in this race, but like I said, I am looking at the 9, the great one, and I'm looking at the 4, Parnelli.
All right, so I remember the San Felipe only because they were coming around the stretch. No, they were coming off the back turn, coming around the oval. They hadn't got to the stretch yet, but 2 of the 3 horses in the lead were the Great One and Hockey Dad. I remember that. The Hockey Dad faded, so he's not in here today, but that would have been a hunch exacta for any guy that's ever coached his kids in hockey. That's for darn sure. All right, so when we get back from break, we're gonna hop on the live action, check in again. Even though I think we cashed everything we're going to cash, we're going to talk about some baseball for the weekend. I've got an announcement regarding next week's show. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I got a brand new mouse today. Let's see how it works.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
At ChampionshipFootballs.com, they offer a 100% money-back guarantee on every single souvenir football that they sell. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. There's nothing worse than trying to find the right gift for somebody that already has everything. Whether that special present is for a New England Patriots fan or an Ohio State Buckeyes backer. Maybe Gramps is a lifelong New York Giants supporter. Or your brother-in-law is a 12th man living in Seattle. Know a member of the Michigan State Alumni Association? Is there a better Father's Day gift for someone who's a Baltimore Ravens fan? Send them the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, if your favorite pro team is the Buffalo Bills or those Minnesota Vikings, well, they're sorry about that. Also, if you're a New Mexico State Aggies or Tulane Green Wave alumnus, not much they can do. After all, the name isn't nice effort, you had a pretty good season, footballs.com. The name is ChampionshipFootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
Hey, this is an important message. I'm Second Half Chaz from Sports Betting Weekly. Sports betting is supposed to be a hobby. It's supposed to be fun. If you're hurting yourself by gambling with money you don't have, check out our website for the Gamblers Anonymous phone number.
When Vince Young scored on 4th and 5 in the 2006 Rose Bowl, 2 things happened. The Texas Longhorns won the NCAA title, and ChampionshipFootballs.com was born. From Texas to Alabama to Ohio State, and now for Super Bowl winners too. ChampionshipFootballs.com is the place for the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. Now, 10 years later, ChampionshipFootballs.com has the autographs too. See if any of these names remind you of a special time in your football life. Michael Bennett, Lou Holtz, Joe Montana, Devin Smith, Jameis Winston, Rocky Blyer, Rocket Ishmael, Ara Parsegian, Mike Stonebreaker, Chris Zorich, Luther Bradley, Todd Light, Tony Rice, Lawrence Taylor, Dave Casper, Marcus Mariota, Rudy Rudiger, David Tyree. Enter the promo code RADIO and you'll instantly save $50 on any of the ChampionshipFootballs.com autographed footballs. ChampionshipFootballs.com. The coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Sports Betting Weekly.
Sit back and enjoy the show.
Winner, chicken dinner.
Welcome back to Sports Betting Weekly. I am Second Half Chaz. I am joined by John from GMF Sports Consultant and Wes from 151 Sports Investing. And I always tell Dan and Chris, Mikey on the DC show when I visit on Saturdays, it's pretty cool that I get to spend most of my week on and off the phone or on the internet with a guy that's got consultant as his last name and another guy that has investing as his last name. But next week, we will not have a show. We are off next week. We are taking a break basically because I'm tired and I'm going to a hotel. And I haven't left my house now for a long, long time, but I'm going to a hotel next week, so I'm going to take it off. I will He actually, at the hotel for the Masters, so I may have to check in with Sloppy, because I would imagine that would be a pretty good Sunday, right? If the bar at the hotel has the Masters on, and my guy's coming down the stretch, and he's one of the names on the screen. That's all you can ask for when you're betting golf. That last day to have his name up there, because if his name up there ain't up there, he's probably went home to coach his kids hockey. All right, so that next Thursday is April 8th. We will not be on the air, so I will not be able to wish Charlie, my brother, a happy birthday. He's older than me. I don't know how old he is, but every year I catch him a little because he's born April 8th and I'm born in November. So every year I catch up a little, and then every year he gets older than me. But I want to wish him a happy birthday. I would not be here in San Diego if it wasn't for his proud military service to the United States Navy, and I'm very thankful and I love him very much, and I miss him, and I'm going to see him soon, hopefully. That being said, let's talk about what I do. I write down what you guys say. Last Saturday at the DC shows, I wrote down bet over on the Nuggets game, and then something happened, and the over dropped a lot. It went from 40 to 220 from 240 to 220. I don't remember why. And it hit, and I cashed the first half, and I cashed for the first quarter, because overs, they have first quarter overs in the NBA. So that was pretty good. So let's write down some stuff for Wes. If I remember correctly, Wes, you like Houston.
I do like Houston this weekend.
Team totals in that game.
I like Houston to go over the 29.5 for that first half. I also like Baylor to go over the 32.5 for the first half. And I like the total of 62, and I'm going to play it all three ways. That way, if one misses, we're hedged.
Well, yeah, and again, that's a betting thing that I will do with baseball as well. You bet the over, and how many times, Wes, if you said, hey, if the math doesn't make sense, something's going on here, the over is 7.5, and the two teams' overs are 3.5.
I mean, that happens, and usually when it does, you're better off just playing the teams individually. And the worst case scenario is one gets it, the other one doesn't, and you push. The other one I'm looking this weekend. I'm going to be looking for live action on the Gonzaga UCLA game. I'm going to be looking at these ponies, and I'm always going to be watching the NHL. We had that one this week that took 17 minutes to cash, and it was a team total.
15 and 22 we had. However, we did pretty good. We did pretty good today because we were pretty much done and had cashed all of those second period tickets in not much more than, I think there was 5 minutes when we started. Maybe it just started. So 20 minutes, whatever a period. What's a period in hockey take in real time, guys?
It's not as bad as basketball or football. A period in hockey, real time is 20 minutes, but real time is probably 30 minutes. I mean, it's not that crazy.
Yeah, with most sports, you can do the math and know, if there's 7 minutes left in the game, it's going to be 15 minutes or whatever it is. So, all right, so we'll talk about John. John, you also like before I go to John, let's get back to Wes. Wes, 151 Sports Investing. With the, we're not going to come back to you, so let's tell people where to find you.
You can find me at Chicago Options Trader. It's a Discord app. You can find me at 151 Sports through the big three: the Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And like I said, at Chicago Options Trader. And for any new members that want to sign up, if you use the promo code 151 Sports, you'll get a discount off your membership, and you'll be able to play some stocks during the week. Get some great plays. The guys made a ton of money this week, and they were rarely wrong. And you'll get my podcast as well.
Yeah, and then don't forget sportsbettingweekly.com on the cash tickets, hashtag cash tickets. You just go down to Wes and click on Wes. All right, so John, you also like Houston, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm going to be on that Houston wagon there with Wes, and then I'm going to be riding the game over as well. That'll be.
What percentage of your bet will be money line on Houston?
I'll probably sprinkle the spread, and then I'll do a little bit on the money line as well. So I'll probably put unit on Houston, and then another quarter unit on the money line as well. Just that way, if it hits, it makes it that much more better.
All right. So what about the second game, UCLA at Gonzaga?
Same. I'm just going to be eyeing in-game opportunities. My gut tells me to take Gonzaga. I just don't think that UCLA will have the offense to hang with them. But I'm going to wait, and maybe I can get a better line. If for some strange reason Gonzaga stumbles out the gate, maybe that line drops to 8 or 9, and I can jump in at that point. So that's what I'm looking. I'm probably looking to get in under 10, I think, would be my comfortable level for in-game situation there.
Is there any situation you find yourself betting UCLA, like when Gonzaga went up big, you guys hopped on USC getting a lot of points? Do you see that as an option?
I would have to watch the game and kind of see how the flow of the game is to take it from there. I mean, if I'm not already on UCLA, I wouldn't kind of be going back and forth on that. So I'll kind of wait and see. Like I said, I think Houston and Gonzaga, those are my teams, my final team. So we'll see how that game plays out.
Yep. All right. So as you saw, if you were here for the commercial, championshipfootballs.com is the coolest present they'll open that day, guaranteed. They are basically souvenir footballs for your favorite team's special season. However, we are doing a basketball this year. So we have Houston and Baylor. So Houston and Baylor, those are both teams that have not won a national championship in a long, long time, right? I don't think Baylor was 70-something years, I think they said.
Yeah, it's been a while since I don't think Houston that I remember. UCLA has too many of them. UCLA has way more than enough for everybody. So
it would be a perfect season. So we're really excited about that. So that'll be somewhere on the internet next week. Though you won't be seeing my face here on Thursdays, you'll be seeing my videos with the basketball. That's for sure. But the one thing about UCLA that I loved when they interviewed the guy was, you got to understand, anything less than a championship, those banners don't get hung up. They don't. Pac-12 don't mean a damn thing. They want championships. And what did he say? The Rangers just scored, by the way. The Rangers just scored. I almost hopped on it, but you know what? It was minus 250, and it was just a little too high for me. But we cashed on them, so we're happy about that. All right, so you can reach them, and again, I think what we've done in the past is we go into the banners, and Speedy does a great job of this, but I just go out there. You can check out John on Instagram. Where is it? Show this. You can check out John on Instagram. There's his Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. There's his Twitter. SportsBettingWeeklyLive.com is where you can see the show. I'll be on the DC Saturday night. At that point, we'll be live. I think we'll be talking right in the middle of that game. That's always cool. I love that. I love coming on a show with somebody else and giving live action Weston Cashes, because you and I have been doing that for years now. I am Second Half Chaz. You're listening to Sports Betting Weekly on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. Also, you can catch it later tomorrow on SportsBettingWeeklyLive.com, as well as the Belly Up Sports Podcast Network. Always be cashing.